Hey there guys, welcome. This is Athena the Bun here, and I'm going to be going over every rare and mythic card in Universes Beyond TMNT. I'm going to be giving them a rating between 1 and 5 stars, which is essentially how much of an impact I think that these cards are going to have in Standard. More specifically constructed formats, but Standard more often than not. So if you enjoy this type of content, let me know in the comments below, let me know in the MTG Rebellion Discord, and maybe I'll keep making more of these. We'll see. This was just kind of something fun I wanted to do on the side. Without further ado, we're going to start with our white cards. We're going to start with Agent Bishop, Man in Black. The first thing people look at, or people say when they see this card is, oh my god, it's 2 Luminarch Aspirants in one card. But Luminarch Aspirant came down on turn 2, and then on turn 3 attacked as a 3-3. This on turn 4 attacks as a 3-4. Which is a little mopey comparatively, right? And on top of that, being a 2 toughness creature in a format full of shocks as removal spells, it's not really where you want to be. There's also better 3 drops to play in white weenie shells, so again, just not seeing it. I'm gonna rate this card 1 star out of 5. Next up, we have Leader's Talent, and I'm gonna rate this card 1 star out of 5. Leader's Talent is pretty bad. It is a bad Innkeeper's Talent on the first level. Because you have to attack with it. And one big thing with Innkeeper's Talent is you can buff up creatures that you don't necessarily want to attack with yet. Things like Llanowar Elves, right? The second level on this is also pretty bad. There's not really a reason to keep gaining life when your creatures die with counters on them or leave the battlefield with counters on them. This is just way too niche of an effect for you to want consistently to spend mana on. The third effect is pretty good, but the third effect is a lot of mana. So for the first 2 effects, not very good, so the card's not very good. Next up is Leonardo Cutting Edge. This is another variant of Ajani's Pridemate in the format, of which we have no ending supply of. Yeah, I mean, this card's slightly better than Ajani's Pridemate. If you're playing some weird life gain deck, you're probably going to want 2 of it. I'm going to rate this a 2-star card because of that. That being said, life gain decks have never really been particularly good in Standard, at least not in the time that I've played. So I just don't imagine this card seeing any constructed viable play, and it's worse than the Pridemate variants we already have. Next up is the other Leonardo, Sewer Samurai. This card is a lot better. I'm going to give this a 3-star rating. This card fits right into Orzhov Pixie, in my opinion. So if you can sneak this in, you are sneaking in 6 damage because it's a double striking creature. On top of that, you can replay Pixies and Sun Pearl Kirins from your graveyard, which then let you bounce this and then replay it by bouncing the Pixie again, yada yada yada. I think that also the Pixie effects tend to get around the finality counters by being bounced by this again, so that's another point of synergy there to get around the downside of this card. So yeah, I think there's also other good like 1 power and toughness creatures you can reanimate with this, right? Molt Tender is one that comes to mind. If you're playing graveyard stuff anyways, you're probably running Molt Tender. So yeah, I'm gonna give Leonardo a 3-star. I think it's pretty good, and it also fixes one of the problems of Pixie, which is that it sucks at ending the game. Next up, we have Leonardo's Technique. I'm going to give this card a 2-star rating, and this is a very heavy second finger that wants to go down to a 1-star rating. I was really high on this card when I first saw it, because the card that I thought of immediately to combine with this was Twilight Diviner. And Twilight Diviner, if you get 2 of those off of Leonardo's Technique, no you didn't, you got 4 of them, because they both see each other enter, so they both copy each other. That's a pretty nuts thing to do, and that's probably worth 4 mana. Any other combination of cards is probably not worth the setup for this for 4 mana. Unless you get like 2 Oculus or something else. And either way, all of these setups are far too much. And the sneak on this, you're relatively never getting because you're playing a graveyard deck that probably doesn't have that much pressure early in the game in order to get evasive creatures in that you then want to return to hand for more value with your sneak, yada yada yada. So yeah, card's not very good. I think there's maybe in a million years, there's probably some shell you can come up with to work with this. The Esper Moonshadow deck might be the best one, but other than that, I'm just not seeing it. Next up, we have Prehistoric Pet. This is a 1-mana 1/2, and that stat line's pretty good. And then you also can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. That's also really good. So you already have a sneak enabler in your ninja card, and that's a pretty good spot to be in. You do get this effect to return other creatures you control to their owner's hand at sorcery speed. Well, not at sorcery speed, but only during your turn, which is a little mopey. I think if it could protect creatures, it would be a bit better. But I think if there's a ninja deck in the format, this is a pretty reasonable card to put in there. And if there isn't a better 1-drop to run in a white weenie shell, I could see this getting played post-rotation. So I'm going to give this card a 2-star rating. It is a kind of okay card for a deck that doesn't exist yet, but might. And then maybe after rotation, it can see some more play as 1-drops rotate, but that's about it. Next up, we have we have Sally Pride, Lioness Leader. It skipped over one. Sally Pride's okay. I think it competes directly with Elspeth Stormslayer for the 5 mana slot on these go wide aggro deck sideboard pieces. I think Elspeth being a planeswalker helps it even more, and I think Elspeth is also just one of the best cards in Standard right now, regardless of if it has a deck to be on top right now. So yeah, I don't think this is going to see play until Elspeth rotates. Because of that, the best I can do is 2 stars. Because even after Elspeth rotates, who knows how powerful Standard's going to be at that point at the rate power creeps going. Next up, we have Triceraton Commander. Commander is a great way to word this card because that is about what this card is good for. 2 mana 2/2 flyer, not good enough. 4 mana for a 2/2 and a 2/2 flyer, not good enough. Being able to attack with this and get counters, fun, but not good. 1-star card. Nothing more to say there. Next up, we have Turncoat Kunoichi. This card is a Banisher Priest style effect that we have seen a couple of times be constructed viable. The ones coming to mind immediately are going to be Brutal Cathar in Midnight Hunt and Werefox Bodyguard in Wild of Eldraine. Both of these cards had other things going for them that really helped them out. This one kind of does too. I'm going to give this card a 2-star rating though, because I think the only synergy I can think of with this card is with Nurturing Pixie style effects, in which case you can exile a creature every single turn. But this doesn't really help the Pixie problem of they're really good at removing threats but not very good at setting up ones, and this is not a good enough threat to be something that helps that deck compared to something like Leonardo Sewer Samurai that we covered earlier, right? So yeah, 2-star rating. It's a good card. It's just a good card for a different format, or maybe if like some things change up a little bit. Next up, we have Turtles Forever. I'm going to give this card a 1-star rating. Now, I'm sure there's going to be someone out there that's going to be like, oh, but what about Gifts Ungiven? And Gifts Ungiven is a significantly better card than this. It put the cards into the graveyard, which is a really big deal. A really, really, really big deal. Basically removed the illusion of choice from your opponent. Same thing with Emergent Ultimatum from Ikoria. That was another card that removes the actual choice, gives you the illusion of choice, right? Because whatever options you pick will still end the game regardless. There's not going to be something like that with this because it shuffles the cards into the library, and it's very restrictive on what cards you need. Next up is April O'Neil Hacktivist. I'm going to give this card a 2-star rating. I think there's a world where you could play this alongside something like Springleaf Drum in order to get 2 cards out on the board at the same time. I think outside of that, the ability for this to draw cards will likely only draw 1 card a turn, unless you don't build your deck in a very, very, very specific way, in which case that might just be too much of a restriction for this to be good. That being said, I mean, if you can find a way to draw 2 cards off of this a turn, it's good. And there's stuff like Mox Amber in Pioneer, and there's like some other weird fast mana artifacts and stuff in older formats, so maybe you can find something there too. Next up is Does Machines. This is a 4-star card out of this set. I think the first chapter alone is what makes this a 4-star card. This is essentially a better version of 2 mana Mill 4, which is something that we've seen see play before in the format, right? We've seen Founding of the Third Path. We've seen Picklock Prankster. Obviously, these cards do other things on top of it, but so does this one. And this card also gives you filtering instead of just straight mill, which is generally better because you get to get rid of cards that are in your hand that are stuck there. I think that there are potential shells for this. You could play this in Sultai Reanimator. You could play this in Is It Looting. You could play this in Is It Lessons if you really wanted. I don't think it's particularly good in any of those shells enough to see play, but who knows? You might be able to see play off of this in some other new shell, and I think even if you just have a single artifact or maybe 2 artifacts for the 2nd level, you've hit a really good recipe for success. The power level is definitely there. I think that if there is a blue graveyard deck outside of Lessons, it will probably want this card, and yeah, it's just a solid card for graveyard decks. Next up, we have Donatello Gadget Master. I'm going to give this card a 1-star rating. This is an artifact synergy card that is not itself an artifact, which is a problem. And then on top of that, you need a lot of hoops to jump through in order to make this worth it. You can sneak this in for 2 mana, but again, sneak its own whole little subset of problems to get this thing going, right? And then on top of that, you need to have an artifact on the board that you want to make a token out of, which is, God, this is just a lot of stuff to try to do. So yeah, 1-star card, a lot of prerequisites. Just not seeing it. Alrighty. Next up, we have the other Donatello, which is somehow even more disappointing than you are to your parents, and more disappointing than the last card we saw. You just need to jump through, again, a lot of hoops in order to make this happen. It's 4 mana. It's a very slow value engine. You can only activate at sorcery speed. That's another point against it. I'm really surprised this is a Mythic, to be honest. I'm really surprised this is a Mythic. So, yeah, I'm gonna give this a 1-star rating, and we're gonna move on. I don't want to look at this anymore. Next up is Kitsune Dragon's Daughter. This is a 6 mana 6/6 vigilance. I promise you, in 99% of your games, this does not have any other text, and in those games where it does have text, you are either in Magical Christmas Land, or you are 15 years in the future, it's been reprinted, and there's way different cards in the set, and it's a much slower format. I don't know. There's no chance in hell this sees any constructed play. Next up is Kitsune's Technique. I'm gonna give this another 1-star rating. Not looking good for blue. Lots of 1-star ratings coming up, don't worry. So this card at 6 mana is way too slow. This card at 2 mana is fine for a dedicated mill deck if you have a way to sneak this in. Which way are you sneaking this in? The best way I can think of is you get a Ruin Crab on turn 1, somehow it survives and your opponent has 0 blockers, and you can attack with it, bounce it, and play this for 2. Then you've hit Magical Christmas Land, congratulations, you've done the thing. Outside of that scenario, this card will be stuck in your hand the vast majority of the time, because you won't be able to attack with your Ruin Crab, or if you do, they'll just block it, right? So, yeah, just not seeing it. Not seeing the spice. 1 star. Next up is Krang Mastermind. This is a 5-star card. This is one of the best cards of the set, for sure, and this can build its own artifact deck around it because it is so strong. Now, in older formats, this is pretty ridiculous, right? Because in older formats, you dump your entire hand, you draw 4, you get like a 6/4, you have artifact lands in some of these formats, like it's disgusting, right? Absolutely gross. But even in Standard, with this go-wide artifact deck that they're trying to build, this is going to be the reason it gets played, right? Because you can just refill your hand and get a big board on top of your board of dinky little 1/1s, right? So if you can get this out before the Pyroclasm effect, you've basically won the game. So yeah, I am expecting this to see a lot of Standard play. I'm expecting this to build its own artifact deck because it's that powerful. And you are willing to play bad cards in order to make this card much better. It is the Thoughtcast or Thought Monitor effect of this format. Next up is Mondo Gecko. I'm going to give this card a 3-star rating. I think that if you are in a Dimir Tempo deck, this is not a bad sideboard piece to have against these decks full of removal spells, because this ability to defend itself is really big, and it will draw you more cards in order to keep feeding this protection effect, which is a pretty big deal. I think that being able to draw 2 cards off of this every single time is a pretty reasonable thing to be able to do, especially when it doesn't say creatures, it just says permanents. So you can have artifacts, enchantments, planeswalkers of different colors. So yeah, 3-star card, pretty good. The floor is kind of iffy, but I mean the ceiling of this gets pretty insane, right? So yeah, I don't know, I'm pretty high on this. But let me know if you disagree with this. Is probably gonna be one of my more controversial takes that it's playable, right? If you disagree with this, let me know in the comments below. Next up is Rennet Temporal Apprentice. I'm gonna give this card a 1-star rating. This is a 5 mana flash mana war, which is definitely not constructed playable nowadays. Next up, we have Turtles in Time, and this is gonna be another 1-star rating. This card is very mopey. Very, very mopey. 7 mana to basically pseudo reset the game. Doesn't actually do anything to progress the game in your favor. There's no point in playing this. Just go next. Next up, we're in black. We have Armageddon Future Shark. This card is a 4-star card. This card slots right into any of the Superior Spider-Man / Cavero the Mind-Bitten decks that you can play, and it will be a good 1 to 2 of in those decks to be board clears, essentially. We had a card called Portal to Phyrexia in Standards past that people would reanimate, kill 3 creatures, your opponent would concede on the spot because they probably can't win the game at that point. It's a pretty similar story here. You're never casting this, it's only a reanimation target, but it is a damn good one for playing against creature decks. Next up is the Cloning of Shredder. This is going to be a 1-star card, and yeah, this card is pretty bad. If you can get to 6 mana, copy a legendary creature 3 times, sure. I'm sure you can also see your dad come home with the milk again. Some things just aren't happening, buddy. Get over it. Next up is Madam Null, Power Broker. This is a 3-star card. I think you only want to play this alongside 1 and 2 mana creatures, maybe the occasional 3 mana creature, because buffing power and toughness like at this level is worth the life that you're paying, and this can get you some pretty insane boards if it survives for a single turn. Also, I think the Death Touch saves it. I think the Death Touch is what makes this playable. Without it, you wouldn't be able to have a board presence, but at the very least, this can jump block something and kill it. So yeah, I don't know, I'm pretty high on this card. I don't think there's a potential shell yet for it, but you could build a white weenies deck that splashes black for this, and maybe some other card or 2. I don't know, there's a couple different things you can do with it, so I'm a little excited to try it out. Next up, we have Ninja Teen, and this card is bad. This is a 1-star card. This is, oh god. This is the black class enchantment for the set, And a Blood Artist effect for 3 mana on an enchantment is not where you want to be. We have Blood Artist effects for 2 mana on creatures that are nowhere near playable in this format, despite having the perfect Aristocrats deck built around them. Any effect past this is far too much mana to spend for the effect, so it's just not worth it. Next up, we have Rat King Verminister. In older formats, there are things you can do with fetch lands for this, right? You could fetch land, play this on turn 2, get a 2/2 and a 1/1 that's pretty good. It'll keep growing, it's a must-answer threat, yada yada yada. After this, it's commander bait, right? Outside of the situation where you can get a 2/2 and a 1/1 for 2 mana, it's pretty commander bait. You are playing a creature that essentially wants to work with Ravenous Rats, or whatever the card is that lets you play as many of those rats in your deck as you want, right? It's a casual card, it's a commander card, let people have fun with it, but it is a 2-star card, because again, in older formats, it could see play just from being a 2/2 and a 1/1 for 2 mana. Next up is Savanti Romero, Time's Exile. This is Speed Demon from Aether Drift, for those that remember that card, and Speed Demon did see some fringe sideboard play in the Demon's decks for the Mirror and for other go big grindy matchups. This card is in a similar fate. I don't remember properly, I don't think Speed Demon put 1/1 counters on itself at all. It doesn't grow, obviously there's a limit to what you can do. This card will eventually kill you though, so you do kind of need to end the game fast with it, which is really good that it has trample because of that. So yeah, fringe playable sideboard card for mid-range decks when they need to go bigger, and that's about it. Next up is Shark Shredder Killer Clone. This is a 1-star card. This card's pretty mopey. You need to be playing against a creature deck. You need to be able to get in with this creature, which means most of the time sneaking it for 5 mana, which is a big prerequisite. And then it doesn't actually end the game to do all that prerequisites, right? So yeah, 1-star card, just not good enough for Constructed, I'm afraid. Too many hoops to jump through. At best, a sideboard card for a really niche matchup. Next up is Southwind Avatar. This is another 1-star card. God, these life gain cards just aren't good. Even if, I'm surprised they made this only make your opponent lose 1, because I think even if they made this lose your opponent loses life equal to the amount of life that you gained, I still don't think this card would be particularly playable. So as it stands, it is really bad. Don't ever put this in your constructed decks, please. Next up, we have Splinter's Technique. What if we took Demonic Tutor, made it 4 mana, and then gave you some hoops to jump through to make it 2 mana again? Those hoops to jump through, okay, let's just put it this way. Demonic Tutor is a deck that combo decks generally want to play to find combo pieces. Most of the time, these combo decks are not going to have the creature to be able to sneak this in unblocked. So because of that, I'm going to rate this card a 1-star card. I think in another 20 years, maybe there's some World of Power creep where we get to the point where every deck just runs 1-mana creatures to sneak this in, right? Unfortunately, this is not that world. This is just not going to see standard constructed play for any time during its time in standard ever. Next up, we have Super Shredder. Super Shredder is a Tarmogoyf. That's basically what this card is. It's Tarmogoyf with Menace. And I don't think that's good enough for constructed nowadays, but I mean, it does get pretty big, so let's give it a second, right? If we think about this in something like Orzhov Pixies, right? This is another way to end the game, which is something we talked about Pixies struggling with, right? It also will, because of the Menace, it has this pseudo evasion effect. That being said, you don't really want to bounce this with Pixie. There's only so many things you can cut that aren't things you want to bounce with or that are things you want to bounce with Pixie to play stuff that aren't bounceable with Pixie. So yeah, it's pretty mopey. I'm actually going to give this card a 1-star rating in the end. Next up is Broadcast Takeover. This is a 5-mana artifact hate card, which is far too slow for an artifact hate card. I'm going to give this a 1-star rating, and we're just going to leave it at that because it's way too slow. Next up, we have Casey Jones Vigilante. I'm going to give this a 2-star card. There's a lot of talk about this card being a mono red 3-drop. I'm just not seeing it. You play this on turn 3, you will lose your entire hand without much to play, right? You draw 3 cards. Maybe you can play something at instant speed on your upkeep before you discard, and that's about it. You're not really getting much out of this. I think if you're playing a burn deck, you may be able to make good use of this, right? As just a 4/3 for 3 that, like, you play this on turn 3, you draw 3 cards because you're empty-handed because you're playing burn, and then on your upkeep, you spend a bunch of mana at instant speed, get rid of all the cards, draw a new card for turn, and you have a 4/3 on board. That's a pretty good play pattern for a burn deck. I don't know if that's really good enough to make a burn deck see play. So it's a fringe card for a fringe archetype, 2 stars. Next up is Cool But Rude. This is the red class enchantment. This one is probably the best of the bunch. Well, no, that's not true. This one is pretty close to the best of the bunch. I'm going to also give this one 4 stars. I think the first effect of this is fine. If you are playing something like Rakdos Monument or Is It Looting or something similar, we've already seen how good these filtering effects can be. Obviously, this is tied to an enchantment, not a creature, which is not ideal for that sort of thing. But one thing it is ideal for is giving you enchantments to play with Fear of Missing Out for your Delirium in your Rakdos Monument deck, because that deck cannot currently run Fear of Missing Out because it cannot reliably get Delirium, but playing some more enchantments might help you do that. That being said, what you really want to play this for is the second level of it, which will start burning your opponent as you discard cards. This is a good sideboard card for Is It Lessons, as a way to get through artifact hate that does not also hit enchantments. This is and also just a way to play slower matchups anyway with more threats. This is a way for Rakdos Monument to burn your opponent out in longer games, etc. So yeah, really good card, expecting it to see play. Next up, we have Improvised Arsenal. This card is pretty good. For anyone who's ever played with Cranial Ram, this card is pretty reminiscent of that, right? It turns any of your mopey 1/1 artifacts in your artifact aggro deck into big, gigantic 7/1 creatures and so forth. So there's a lot of potential here. The equip cost being 1 is really good for this sort of thing. So yeah, I'm going to give this card a 3-star rating. I think there's potential here for an artifact aggro deck to play this, even as just a sideboard piece for grindier decks. I think this would see play if that deck ends up existing, which I do think it will. Next up is Raphael Ninja Destroyer. I'm going to give this card a 1-star rating. This card is pretty bad. It is a 4-mana 4/4 with the worst version of a Screaming Nemesis effect that I have ever seen in my life. The fact that it must be blocked if able is kind of nice, I guess, because you can end up killing creatures that you might not otherwise be able to. But the mana effect will never go infinite unless you have a way to give this indestructible, which is way too many hoops to jump through in order to make this a viable combo in Constructed. So yeah, 1-star card, just really not seeing the vision, and there's better 4-drops for red decks anyway. Next up is Raphael the Night Watcher. This gives all of your attacking creatures double strike, which can be very potent alongside the Sneak to end a game. This is like the worst version of Embercleave at home I've seen in a long time though. I'm going to give this card a 2-star rating. I think there is a small world where in the future, there's a way to sneak this out and just deal damage, combo, killing damage in that turn. Outside of that, this card will not see constructed play. Next up, we have Raphael's Technique. That is a 1-star card if I've ever seen one. Wow, okay. Yeah, just the fact that it's a May effect, right? It's not like you do it and your opponent, I don't know. If your opponent was forced to do it too, there would be some scenarios you might be able to do this with, like Shieldred, Razorkin Needlehead, etc. Narset in older formats. Without that ability, especially if you can't sneak this in, this is just abysmal. So yeah, 1-star card. Nothing more to say after that. Next up, we have Ravenous Robots. This card is a 4-star card, in my opinion. If there is an artifact aggro deck, I think this is yet another reason why that deck can exist. This, alongside Pinnacle Emissary, gives you 8 ways to continuously pump out these artifact creature tokens, which is really good. I think 8 of an effect is what you need in order for the effect to build a deck on its own, and this is a really good way to feed into your Krang Mastermind. So yeah, really good 2-drop for your artifact aggro deck, and does a lot of cool things. Next up is Slash Reptile Rampager. I'm going to give this card a 1-star rating. I think this card's pretty mopey. Not really a whole lot to do here. Not really a whole lot to say here. Next is Ground Chuck and Dirtbag. This is the first of our green cards. And this is a pretty poor showing of it, because once again, I'm going to have to give this a 1-star rating. This card is just commander bait. This is way too slow of an effect to do anything with in Constructed. Next up is Leatherhead Swamp Stalker. And I'm going to give this card another 5-star rating. This card's pretty good. It is a 4-mana 5/4 hexproof trample, which already is going to kick the shit out of Lessons, right? And other slow non-creature spell-based decks in the format. But then on top of that, if you have a way to give this counters, mind you, it does not have to be a hexproof counter that it removes for the second part of its effect. You can continuously remove artifacts and enchantments. This is the most anti-Lessons card I think I've seen in a long time, and I am here for it, because I don't know, it's just nice to have cards that beat archetypes like that. Do that now, they have to build their deck a different way, right? Find a way around this card. So yeah, I think this card's pretty insane, especially into the current meta decks, and I think it absolutely will find a home, especially when we have green creature tutors in the format right now with Archdruid's Charm and Formidable Speaker. Next up is Michelangelo Improviser. This is the worst version of Kona Rescue Beastie I've seen in a good while, and it will not see play. This is a 1-star card. It cannot even cheat out non-creatures. I guess it can cheat out lands. That does not count. All right. Next up, we have the better Michelangelo. Michelangelo Weirdness to 11. I'm going to rate this a 2-star card. I still think this is a very fringe card, right? A 2-mana 1/1 that makes a mutagen token is not bad by any means. I'm sure Ashley is having a field day with the amount of Simic Cookies love that she's getting in this set with the mutagen tokens. But yeah, I'm just not seeing it. I think that the 1/1 counters archetype is better served by just playing your Simic Rhythm deck and playing Ouroborroid and maybe even an Innkeeper's Talent if you really want an Innkeeper's Talent, and that's about it. Next up is Michelangelo's Technique. I'm going to give this card a 2-star rating. This card is another collected company style effect that is again at sorcery speed. You can sneak this in for 4 mana instead of 5. I think the base rate of this should have just been 4 mana and they should not have done the sneak, and then it might be actually playable. At least super playable. I guess there's still ways you could play this. You are playing a creature deck, so you're much more likely to have a way to sneak this out in comparison to some of the other sneak instants and sorceries we've seen. That being said, you are digging 8 cards deep for any combination of up to 6 mana, so you can get something like an Ouroborroid and a Badgermole Cub, right? That's 6 mana. That's a really good pair of things to hit. So yeah, there's some worlds where things like this can be applicable. I just don't see it at the moment, but the power level's kind of there. Next up is Mutagen Man Living Ooze. I'm going to give this card a 3-star rating. I think the ability to give your activated abilities of artifact tokens you control cost 1 less, that's a really good ability. It makes your mutagens free, which is really important for this mutagen archetype. It also makes your clues cost 1 mana. And there's also like some card called Forensic Gadgeteer or something of that nature in the Murders of Karlov Manor set that does a similar effect, and will therefore make your clues cost 0. That is a really big deal. And what did we say? 8 versions of an effect? That's what you want. So yeah, I think this also coming down as a big of a threat as you basically want it to be. It can spread the love on counters. It's good. It's good. No real complaints about this card. Next up is Party Dude. What this essentially is it is a 1-star card that is an absolute meme that I will probably never put in any of my decks, because the best thing that this can possibly do is be 1 mana, make an enchantment and an artifact. So if in some world in the future that becomes a thing, maybe you can do something with it. Until then, no. It's an artifact hate card that gives your opponent an artifact. That is not where you want to be. Next up, we have Transdimensional Bovine. This is a 3-mana 0/4 mana dork that makes 2 mana. No, not happening. We have a 2-mana 0/4 mana dork that does not have flying and only makes 1 mana, but that card also does not see play, and I don't think this is that much better or worse than that. I think that's a pretty decent idea of a side grade right here, so no. Not going to see any play, 1 star. Next up is Turtle Power. I mean, that's a pretty good card if you're playing Turtle Tribal. The problem is, what the fuck do you play in Turtle Tribal, right? I guess there's a lot of turtles in this set that you can potentially play with this, and if you can build a Turtles deck, this is decent, I guess. So I'm going to give this a 2-star rating. Very fringe card, very fringe archetype, but could see play. Alrighty, we're on to our multicolor cards. We have Bebop and Rocksteady. This card is very similar to I think it's called Demogorgon, Lich's Demogorgon or something in Strixhaven. I don't imagine this card will see any play. That card did not see any play. I don't think this one will either. I guess it is discard fodder for your like Rakdos Monument deck if you just want like a 3-mana 7/5 that discards a card every single turn. Outside of that, I'm just not seeing that, and even in that, it's just not good enough, I don't think. So yeah, 1-star rating. Next up is Dark Leo and Shredder. If there is a reason for ninjas to exist, this is a damn good one. I'm gonna give this card a 3-star rating. It is a card that is good in an archetype that does not exist currently and does not specifically define that archetype, but is a good role player in it. I think that the sneak ability is going to be a lot harder for people to pull off than you would think in this deck, because this is a little bit more telegraphed of a play, I think, than most of them. I mean, making a token isn't bad still. The stat line's good, everything else is fine. It's like a 3-star card. Next up is Dawn and Leo Problem Solvers. This is a 5-mana Yorion-esque blink thing that cannot reset planeswalkers, cannot blink enchantments, and only hits 2 things at a time. I'm not super high on this. This just isn't where Constructed is anymore. Even Yorion isn't really, it's only really played because it's a companion in a lot of the decks it's played in nowadays, so, and it's banned in most of the other formats just because it's a companion, so yeah. Not seeing it. 1-star card. Next up is Dawn and Wrath Hard Science, and once again, I'm going to have to give this card a 1-star rating. Again, if you have an artifact-based deck, you want to put as many artifacts as possible into it. You can't really have too many of these effects that aren't artifacts, and frankly, you're also going to get in situations where you have big spells that you want to cast that you don't have the affinity for anymore because this card is dead, and they're just stuck dead in your hand. Next up is Krang and Shredder. This is once again another 1-star card. There's a lot of hoops to kind of jump through in order to do the thing, right? So yeah, I'm just not seeing it. 6 mana, 6/7, like, eh. Next up is the Last Ronin. 6 mana board wipe is something we've seen on an enchantment before with the Rising of Sozin, I think it's called, in the Avatar set. That card hasn't really seen any competitive constructed play. This one will also not see competitive constructed play. 1 star. Next up is Mikey and Dawn Party Planners. I mean, this is actually a pretty good card. Honestly, I would give this a 3 star. I would give this a 3 star rating. I think if you're playing mutants, ninjas, and turtles, is a very good payoff to be doing that. The stat line is a little bit weak, but it has Ward 2, so it doesn't just die to the cheap removal of the format. Yeah, and I think that this sort of effect is where you would want to be. This is the sort of effect that enables these tribal decks to actually work. Next up is Mikey and Leo Chaos and Order. What a strange name for a white-green card. In any case, it is a Hollow Merc Siege effect. It's a card that's already in standard in Golgari colors. That hasn't really seen much play. A couple brews here and there have tried to run it, but it's just never really found any success, and so I don't imagine this will do any better as a creature that can die pretty easily. Next up is Northwind Avatar. I'm going to give this a 2 star rating. There is a world where a wish board card is good. I don't think it's this current one, and you would need to see a different standard format, an entirely different deck that is very, very, very likely to be a combo deck. Next up is Ralph and Leo Sibling Rivals. Just play Fear of Missing Out and get Delirium. That might actually be better than just playing this, right? I mean, this card is pretty mopey. Like 3 mana, 2/4, has to attack. Then you get an extra combat phase after that. I mean, these types of cards have like really never been that good. Next up, we have Raph and Mikey Troublemakers. This is a big Gruul ramp payoff. I don't think we are really in the format for that anymore. If we were, then Calamity combo would probably still be a viable deck with Smuggler's Surprise. So unless that deck comes back, I'm going to give this card a 1 star rating. I don't see a potential deck for it. Well, actually, no, that's not fair. I'm going to give this a 2 star rating. I see the potential deck for it. That deck is not good and very unlikely to be good for the rest of Standard's time. Next up is Splinter Radical Rat. This is a 4 star card. If there is a Ninjas deck, this is going to be the card that makes it. It's very similar to Katara the Fearless from Avatar, where it single-handedly made the Allies deck by itself. This is a 3 mana ally doubler. I do think that the Ninjas are a little bit worse on average than the Allies are, but this effect is definitely worth 3 mana. It's actually, I would be willing to pay 4 mana for this effect a lot of the time. Next up is Taka and Rajar Terrible Twos. I'm going to give this card a 2 star rating. It's probably honestly generous to give it 2 stars. We have Magebane Lizard in the format currently that does what this card does, but better. There's not really going to be a lot of times where your opponent is casting spells that they are spending less mana on than the spell cast of the card other than against Lessons, and Magebane Lizard is just better against Lessons. So yeah, probably should be a 1 star rating, but I'm gonna give it a 2 star rating because like I could see a world where you're playing into like the 4-color elementals deck and just gotcha them with this. Next up is Chrome Dome. I'm gonna give this card a 3 star rating. 2 mana creature lords should always be looked at. Always, always, always. These are the types of things that enable tribal decks. But this isn't even just a tribal deck. This is an artifact creature deck, which is a little better than a tribal deck, honestly, because there's a lot more artifact creatures that come out than creatures of different tribes as sets go on. The create a token copy of another artifact you control thing is kind of cope. I don't think you're really going to be able to do that very often, but just as a 2 mana artifact creature lord, this is a good card. Next up is Krang Utram something Warlord. It is a reanimation target that is worse than all the other reanimation targets in the format, and probably worse than most that we'll see for the rest of the time, so I'm going to give this a 1 star rating. Just don't see anything being done with this. Next up is the Ooze. I'm going to give the Ooze a 3 star rating. The Ooze is pretty good. Honestly, the Ooze is pretty good. It is a main deckable card for a 1/1 counters deck that you are then going to be able to use as Graveyard Hate in your main deck. Especially as an artifact. This is a nice little engine piece that can make you mutagen tokens consistently, which if there's a way for you to do that and abuse the fact that tokens are entering consistently, you have a pretty good recipe for success. I think there's a couple different decks you could try to build around this, especially 1/1 counter decks or artifact creature decks. So yeah, I'm pretty high on this card, and I hope you are too. Next up, we have Technodrome. I'm going to rate this card a 1 star rating. I think there is no chance in hell for this to go through the hoops it needs to go through to get 6 power consistently. I think if it does, you are just playing a 6/6 reach trample creature, and it's like a French vanilla. The sacrifice thing is kind of interesting, but then you need to be playing other artifacts, and it takes so long to grow this thing's power with that ability. It does draw you cards as like a little value engine, but then we have like Mazemind Tome and other artifacts to draw you cards consistently without having to to stack your own stuff. So yeah, I'm just not seeing it. I don't think it's there. Next up is Turtle Van. I'm going to give this card another 1-star rating. I think this card is pretty mopey. If you are playing mutants, ninjas, and turtles, you are playing this card. Unfortunately, this card is not a mutant, it is not a ninja, and it is not a turtle, and therefore will not benefit from any of the stuff from your synergies. On top of that, it's just I don't know, it's just like a 3-mana 4/4 vehicle with crew 1. It's like fine in combat. It does a thing, but like, again, I just don't see it. Next up, we have Weathermaker. I'm going to give this card a 3-star rating. It's probably too high of a rating to give it, but we do have the mono green landfall deck currently in standard, and I think that mono green landfall deck can use more ways to kind of clear the board as a mono green deck. This is a way to do that, right? This plus Ice Still Explorer is a great way to fill up the charge counters pretty quick and start either removing threats from the board or just killing your opponent because the bolts can hit face. That being said, it's probably a sideboard card at best for that deck against slower matchups because, god, man, this card is so slow. You need so much time for this to build up counters. And last but not least, we have Northampton Farm. This card is trash. This card is a 1-star card. You have to spend mana in order to exile your own creatures off of the board to potentially play them after a board wipe afterwards, and then you have to lose the land to do that. So this is a lot of things that need to go right for this card in order for it to be good, and I'm just really not seeing the vision. But yeah, I don't know. A couple people in the Discord have talked about this. I'm just not super high on it, not expecting this to see any play. All right. And that is it for our Rare and Mythic set review. If you guys enjoyed this content, please let me know in the comments below. Go ahead and give me a like, a subscription, and, you know, whatever else you need to do to support the channel. So, love you guys. See you guys on the flip side of the MTG Rebellion, and I will talk to you all later. Peace.